I wasn't supposed to be home that early. Honestly, if traffic hadn't been an absolute miracle for once, none of this would have happened the way it did. I would have walked in later. She would have had time. Time to hide the evidence. Time to lie. Time to smile like everything was normal. And I would have believed it. Like always. But fate, or whatever sick force runs this simulation, decided I needed the truth. I unlocked the door at 3:46 p.m. I remember the exact time because I looked at my phone, smiling, thinking, hey, maybe I can surprise her and we'll grab takeout before the dinner rush. I didn't even make it past the hallway. Right there, on the bench by the window, was her duffel bag. The big one. The one we only use for weekend trips or airport runs. And on top of it, sitting so neatly it felt staged, was a folder. Thick, heavy-looking, labeled in bold, uppercase letters, Dissolution of Marriage. There was no note. No dramatic letter. Just the cold, brutal efficiency of someone who had already made up their mind. I called out her name. Nothing. Checked the bedroom. Half the closet was empty. Bathroom drawers. Wiped. Not even a toothbrush left. Her favorite scarf, the one she couldn't travel without. Gone. I sat down on the edge of the bed, sweating and shaking, trying to figure out how I missed all the warning signs. How she went from sharing my pillow to silently exiting the marriage like it was a boring meeting. Then my phone buzzed. One message. From her. I didn't cheat. It was just a harmless outing. Please don't make this harder. What? What? I hadn't even accused her of anything. I was still in the stage where I thought this might be some misunderstanding, maybe a prank, some bad joke. And here she was, pre-defending herself for something I hadn't said out loud yet. I stared at the message, fingers trembling, heart pounding like I was in a car crash. Just a harmless outing. Was that supposed to explain this? The vanishing act? The empty drawers? The divorce papers dropped like a bomb in our hallway? You don't file for divorce after a gallery visit. You don't pack your bags after a quick coffee. You don't rip someone's life in half and call it harmless. And yet she did. The next time I saw her, she wasn't alone. And he wasn't who I expected. I didn't reply to her message. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for the heads up? I sat on the bed for over an hour, just staring at the folder. My name printed next to hers like we were still a team. Curtis and Janie. Except now it was petitioner and respondent, like we were strangers in a legal war. My head was spinning with 1,000 thoughts, none of them making sense. I didn't cry. Not then. I didn't scream or throw anything. I just sat there like someone had pulled the batteries out of me. But then, I don't even know what made me do it. I opened the front window a crack. It was just instinct, maybe hoping I'd hear her car pull up again. And that's when I saw them. Across the street. Parked in the shade. Her car. She hadn't left. My heart started slamming against my ribs as I crept to the window. I felt like I was in some cheap spy movie, crouching behind the blinds. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. She wasn't alone. There was a man in the passenger seat. I couldn't see much of his face, but I saw enough. The way he leaned toward her. The way she laughed like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't just dropped a grenade on our marriage. She didn't look sad or guilty. She looked relieved. They sat there talking for maybe 20 more minutes. I didn't blink. I couldn't. Every second felt like a knife twisting in my stomach. Then she pulled out of the spot and drove off. Just like that. No wave. No glance back at the window where I stood watching my entire world drive away. I wanted to scream. I wanted to chase after her car and pound on the window and ask who is he, but I didn't move. I just slid down the wall and sat on the floor, hugging my knees like some pathetic character in a breakup movie. The worst part? That guy in the car. He wasn't Joel, the coworker I'd suspected for weeks. This was someone else. Taller, older looking. I knew Joel from a holiday party last year. This man was a stranger, and that terrified me more than anything. If it had been Joel, I might have convinced myself it was an emotional affair. A work crush. Something stupid and fixable. But this was planned. Hidden. Executed like a military operation. She hadn't slipped. She had decided. I texted her once. Just one message. Was that him? She left it on read. No denial. No gaslighting. No excuses this time. That night, I sat at our dinner table alone and realized something soul-crushing. While I was making future plans, she was making exit strategies. And whatever this harmless outing was, it was never meant to be harmless. It was a farewell tour. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. I kept hearing her voice in my head, That stupid line. Just a harmless outing. Over and over again, like a broken recording on a loop. I sat at the edge of the bed we used to share, surrounded by half-empty drawers and the smell of her perfume still lingering in the closet. I kept telling myself maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I didn't see what I thought I saw. Maybe she was just confused, going through something, and maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. But that lie didn't last long. The next morning, something in me snapped. Not in a dramatic, throw stuff at the wall kind of way. No, it was quieter than that. Colder. I got dressed, grabbed my keys, and waited across the street in my car. I don't know what I was planning to do. Spy? Confront? I just needed answers. I needed to see what my wife was doing while I sat in our half-empty home, trying to make sense of the silence. At 9:17 a.m., she came out of a condo 2 streets over. A place I'd never been to. She wasn't alone. The same man from the passenger seat was holding the door for her. He smiled like they'd just spent a cozy night watching Netflix, not like he'd helped blow up someone's marriage. She laughed again, carefree, like a high school girl sneaking out after curfew. I felt like throwing up. They got into her car. She was driving. He was relaxed, arm draped casually across the back of the seat. I stayed a few cars behind as they drove across town. I kept telling myself to stop, that this was beneath me, that I didn't want to see what I already knew. But I couldn't stop, not after what she did to me. They pulled into some quiet little cafe on the edge of the city, not some dim bar where cheaters go to hide. This was the kind of place couples go for brunch, where waitresses remember your name and ask how your mom's doing. They got a table outside, in the open, like they had nothing to hide. And the part that really shattered me? She was wearing my hoodie. My old gray hoodie. The one she always stole when she felt cold or lazy. I didn't even realize it was gone from the house. And there she was, sitting with another man, wrapped in something that still smelled like me, sipping coffee like nothing mattered. I stayed in the car and watched them for nearly 40 minutes. At one point, he reached across the table and touched her hand. And she didn't pull away. She leaned in. That was the moment I knew it was real. Not a flirtation. Not a mistake. It wasn't a drunk kiss at an office party. It was a relationship. One that had clearly been going on longer than I ever suspected. When they got up to leave, I slumped down low in my seat. Like some cliché private investigator in a bad movie. I waited until they drove off, then I pulled out of the parking lot and went home. And when I got there, I saw something that cracked me open completely. On the kitchen counter, sitting right where she left the divorce papers, was a handwritten note I hadn't noticed before. Just one line. I didn't fall out of love, Curtis. I just found something easier. She didn't leave because I failed. She left because he required less effort. I kept the note. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me hoped I'd wake up and realize I imagined it all. The folder, the hoodie, the man across from her at brunch, her cold goodbye. All of it. But every time I looked at that line, I just found something easier. It dug into me deeper. I didn't know love could be measured by effort. I thought it was about history, about showing up, about staying. I guess she saw it differently. For days, I barely left the house. I canceled work meetings. I ignored my friends' messages. I shut everything off. I kept telling myself it was over and that I had to move on. But then something happened I didn't expect. I got a message from a name I didn't recognize. A woman. Her profile picture was a cat. The message was short. Hi. I think we should talk. It's about Janie. I didn't respond at first. It felt like a scam or some twisted prank. But she messaged again. I'm not trying to start drama, but I'm his wife. My stomach dropped. I reread the message 5 times, barely breathing. His wife. Was she talking about the guy Janie had been with? The one from the cafe? The one I'd followed? I finally replied. Cautiously. Are you talking about the man she's been seeing? Do you know his name? And that's when everything spiraled. She sent me a photo. It was taken from the passenger seat of a car, clearly a phone snap, slightly blurry, but it was him. No doubt. Same guy from the cafe. From Janie's car. From the condo. He looked happy. Smiling. Driving. The timestamp was from 3 days ago. That's my husband, she wrote. His name is Byron. I found texts between him and your wife. I think this has been going on for months. At least. Byron. I didn't even know a Byron existed in our world. I never heard her mention him. Not once. He wasn't from her job. He wasn't a family friend. He was someone she met behind my back, built a relationship with, and then lied about while still sleeping next to me every night. The woman, her name was Alina, was calm, too calm. She'd clearly had time to process what I was only just beginning to understand. We talked for almost an hour. She filled in blanks I didn't even know existed. Janie and Byron met at a local volunteer event months ago. Some fundraiser for a community garden. They hit it off. Started texting, then calling, then running errands together. And somewhere in between my business trips and late-night grocery runs, she started leaving pieces of herself with him. Her favorite blanket, a toothbrush, my hoodie. Alina said she'd confronted Byron a week ago, and he admitted everything. Said he was in love with Janie, that she made him feel alive again, that she didn't nag him or make him feel like he was always behind in life. I laughed bitterly when I heard that, as if being neglected, ignored, and lied to was somehow more freeing. I thanked Alina. She didn't owe me anything, but she gave me the one thing Janie never did, the truth. And with that truth, something shifted. Because it wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was conspiracy. They'd built a life together in the shadows, two cheating hearts hiding behind cafe menus and middle-of-the-night text messages, while I sat at home folding her laundry and wondering what I could do better. But I wasn't wondering anymore. I was planning. I think there's a moment in every betrayal story where grief gets tired of itself. Mine came the day after I spoke with Alina. I was sitting in our empty living room. No more hours, just mine now. And I realized something weird. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even angry. I was quiet, focused, like something had clicked in me and stopped the noise. See, while Janie had been packing her feelings into Byron's arms, I had been paying attention. Maybe not to what she was doing behind my back, but to the patterns, to the routines. I remembered things. Where she hid her passwords. Where she kept her journals. What apps she thought I didn't know about. And I also remembered something else. She never changed the lock code on her iCloud. I don't know what I was expecting to find when I logged in. Maybe some half-deleted texts, some blurry selfies. What I found instead was a digital roadmap of her double life. There were entire albums of photos. Her with Byron at the lake. Her in my hoodie at his place, feet on his couch. Her smiling in front of the mirror, taking mirror selfies I'd never seen, in outfits she told me were too revealing for outside. I couldn't even breathe properly scrolling through it. There was an energy in her face I hadn't seen in years, like I was looking at someone who had already died and been reincarnated into someone else. But the most disturbing part? A video. It was shaky, taken at night. The camera turns as she laughs and whispers, "Don't post this, Byron will kill me," followed by his voice, "You're safe now. He won't even see it coming." That he was me. I must have replayed that one sentence 10 times, my stomach churning, fingers trembling. It didn't sound romantic. It sounded strategic, cruel, planned. Like I was the fool in some game they were enjoying too much to end. I started digging deeper. Calendar events, notes, shared locations. She had set reminders to bring Curtis's car back and clean texts after Tuesday. There was even one that said, "Ask Byron Ree, the lawyer." I nearly choked. She'd used me for stability while building her escape plan with another man, and she didn't even bother hiding it very well. But she made one mistake, a massive one. She never revoked access to our shared storage unit. We'd had it for years. Mostly used it for winter coats, old furniture, stuff we never wanted to throw out but didn't want to trip over. And apparently, she'd been using it to stash things she didn't want me to see. Receipts, gifts, a framed photo of them at some beach I've never been to. Handwritten letters, dozens, stuffed into a box labeled backup. And tucked into the back corner, her old laptop. The one she said was broken and not worth fixing. I took it home, booted it up. And the files that were still there? They changed everything. Because it turns out, Janie had a plan. A real one. With dates, legal notes, a draft of a statement accusing me of emotional neglect. She was planning to say I made her feel unsafe, that I was unavailable and controlling. None of it was true, but written out like that, in her handwriting, it looked ready for court. She was going to use my silence against me. She'd been building a story where I was the villain, and she was the brave woman escaping her broken marriage. Except I wasn't broken. I was betrayed. And now, I had every piece of her puzzle. No yelling. No revenge post. No late-night confrontations. That's not how I was going to handle this. Because if she wanted freedom so badly, she was about to get it. Just not the way she expected. I didn't sleep after finding the files on her old laptop. I couldn't. It was all too detailed, too rehearsed. Janie hadn't just been planning an exit. She'd been preparing a whole narrative. She wrote herself into the role of a victim so convincingly that I wondered how many people she'd already tested it on. A cousin, a friend, maybe even her parents. The thought made my skin crawl. That morning, I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror for longer than I cared to admit. I looked like a man who'd been hit by a truck, but I was thinking clearer than I had in years. For once, I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging anyone for answers. I was done being the soft-spoken, understanding husband she could manipulate with guilt and half apologies. So I started taking my life back, piece by piece. I called my friend Damon, someone Janie always said she couldn't stand because he gave her weird vibes. You know what that really meant? Damon saw through her. He always had. I told him everything. No filter. He didn't say much at first. Just listened. But when I told him about the fake, emotional neglect claim she was drafting, he interrupted me with one sentence I'll never forget. Then don't let her be the narrator. So I didn't. I spent the next 72 hours doing everything Janie never expected me to do. I froze the joint accounts legally. I pulled all the text and location metadata from her phone's cloud backup, including dates that directly contradicted her story. I even tracked the name of the attorney she had consulted, who, ironically, had left her detailed notes in her cloud drive under the label personal. Rookie mistake. Then I went to the house. Not the house we lived in. The one she rented under her name just a few miles out. The one I only knew about because her Uber receipts had pinged the same location again and again. I didn't knock. I didn't shout. I left one envelope in the mailbox. Inside was everything. Screenshots, journal pages, email drafts, photo timestamps, her fake court narrative next to the real digital trail. I didn't write a note. I didn't need to. I just labeled the folder, freedom, as you defined it. Then I left town. I packed up my essentials, not in panic, but with purpose. I rented a cabin 2 states away under my cousin's name. No social media, no calls. I forwarded my work email to Damon with a short message. Cover me for a week. I'm reclaiming oxygen. Janie didn't try to contact me right away. Maybe she thought I'd blow up her phone. Maybe she thought I'd show up crying, asking why. But I gave her nothing. And when people like her don't have an audience, their performance falls apart. 3 days later, she cracked. The first message came in just after 10 p.m. Curtis, where are you? Then, I need to talk to you. Please. It's important. Then a missed call. Then 2 more. I ignored them all. By day 5, the messages turned emotional. I didn't mean for it to go this far. And I made a mistake. Can we talk like adults? And then finally, I didn't expect you to disappear like this. You're scaring me. That one made me pause. Not because I felt bad, but because it showed me exactly how much she'd lost control. She thought she'd be the one walking away, the one looking composed in court, telling a neat little story about how she tried her best, but her husband just checked out emotionally. But now I was the ghost, the silent one, the one no one could get a handle on. And when you take control away from someone like Janie, someone who needs the narrative, you don't need revenge. You become it. Janie found me. Or, at least, she thought she did. It happened on the 8th day of silence. I was sitting by the window of the cabin, drinking lukewarm coffee from a chipped mug, staring at the mountain fog and wondering if she'd cracked yet. I'd been waiting. Not out of spite. Not really. But because I knew her. Knew how badly she needed to control how people saw her. And the moment she realized that version of her life was slipping through her fingers, she would come running. Not because she loved me, but because she hated being exposed. That morning, I got an alert from the cabin security app. Motion detected. I checked the camera and there she was, standing at the front door in a coat too thin for the cold, looking around like she didn't recognize the quiet. She didn't knock right away. She just stood there, arms crossed, probably rehearsing whatever script she'd come to deliver. I didn't open the door immediately. I made her wait. Eventually, I stepped out onto the porch. She turned to me with that fake relieved smile, the one she used at family gatherings, the one that always meant, let's just pretend everything's okay. Curtis, she said, like the name itself was an apology. I've been trying to reach you. You scared me. I didn't answer. I just let her talk. She went into this half-rehearsed monologue about confusion, stress, how she got in over her head, and didn't mean for things to spiral. Then came the crocodile tears. She even tried to walk closer, like touching my arm would reset everything back to normal. But I didn't flinch. I just looked her in the eyes and said calmly, "You lied to me, and you lied about me. That's not confusion. That's a campaign." Her face twisted. Not sad, cornered. She hadn't expected me to be calm. She expected broken, emotional, fixable. She tried again. "Can't we talk without blaming each other?" I tilted my head. "I didn't blame you. I just showed people what you wrote." Silence. It hit her then. I could see it. That exact moment when the weight of what I'd done finally landed. I hadn't screamed. I hadn't begged. I hadn't burned anything down. I had just shown the truth. And that was all it took to make her entire plan collapse. She looked down, her voice cracking now, and not in the way that moves you. In the way that frustrates manipulators who realize they've lost the upper hand. "I didn't think you'd actually do this," she whispered. "I didn't think you'd just vanish." I shrugged. "You told me you wanted easier. I gave it to you." For the first time since the whole thing began, Janie didn't have a comeback. No spin. No excuse. She looked around the quiet hills like they might tell her what to say. Like the fog might carry a line that would rewind everything. But it didn't. I walked back inside and closed the door gently behind me. I didn't yell. I didn't lock it with a dramatic click. I just left her standing there, in the cold, surrounded by everything she claimed she wanted: space, silence, and her own story. But this time, no one believed it but her. Janie didn't come back to the cabin after that day. She stood outside for maybe 10 more minutes, probably hoping I'd change my mind, open the door, ask her to explain herself one more time. I didn't. And that silence? That was the loudest I'd ever spoken in our entire relationship. She texted a few times after. Long paragraphs filled with half apologies, dramatic reflections, and those desperate lines cheaters always seem to reach for. "We had something real once, and you know me better than anyone." I never replied. Not out of spite, not out of revenge, but because I realized something I should have seen a long time ago. Knowing someone doesn't mean you have to keep carrying them, especially when they let go first. After the cabin, I didn't go straight home. I extended the stay by another week. I read books, cooked for one, took walks without needing to tell anyone where I was going. There was a stillness I hadn't felt in years. Not the heavy kind that comes from heartbreak, but the clean kind that follows when the weight is finally off your chest. And in that quiet, I found something I thought was gone: myself. Funny how that works. You spend so long trying to keep a relationship alive, you forget who you were before it started dying. I wasn't Curtis the husband anymore. I was just Curtis. And that was enough. When I finally returned home, I didn't just walk back into the old routine. I changed everything. Sold the house. Donated half the stuff we'd collected. Moved to a smaller place near the lake. Somewhere peaceful. Somewhere new. And then, completely unexpectedly, something good happened. I met someone. No, it wasn't some rebound romance or a rushed attempt to fill the void. It was slow, gentle, real. Her name's Tessa. We met at a used bookstore when we reached for the same copy of a memoir neither of us ended up buying. We talked about life, not love. She didn't ask about my past right away. She asked what I wanted next. And for once, I had answers. It's been 7 months now. And no, I don't know where things are going. I don't need to. What I do know is that I'm finally with someone who doesn't need to rewrite the story to feel good in it. Janie tried to bury me with a lie, but all she did was dig herself out of a life she was never meant to stay in. And while she's probably still spinning the narrative, trying to patch the version of events that fell apart in her hands, I'm not worried. Because I stopped needing her closure the moment I gave myself peace. She left for something easier, but I found something better. And this time, I'm not letting go.